We pause in quiet reflection in this third Pre-SONA 2018 Forum, Tatak ng Pagbabago, Tatak ng Katatagan. As public servants and in accordance to the values and virtues of the Climate Change Adaptation, Mitigation and Disaster Risk Reduction Cluster and Security, Justice and Peace Cluster, we ask for guidance in protecting and preserving peace and order in our country. Grant us the strength to stand tall for the country, the discipline to put the nation first before ourselves, and the will to make decisions that promote the well-being of the people. Through your direction, we recognize our responsibilities and the rights and needs of both individuals and the society. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and our efforts here today. We ask for enlightenment so we may act wisely and well. Amen. You may now be seated. May we request everybody to please rise once again for the Philippine National Anthem. Thank you. You may now be seated. And this time for real. Thank you so much. Today, the government under the leadership of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte brings the public a platform where relevant milestones can be shared by the citizens to the citizens. The Office of the Cabinet Secretary and the Presidential Communications Operations Office bring you Tatak ng Pagbabago, a Pre-SONA 2018 Forum. This initiative covers the policies and programs of the cabinet clusters that supports our President's vision of a comfortable life for every Filipino. To facilitate today's program, we are pleased to have Presidential Communications Operations Office Secretary Jose Roberto Martin Andanar.
Executive Secretary Boss Bingbong Medialdea, Cabinet Secretary June Evasco, Department of Environment and Natural Resources Secretary Roy Simatu, National Security Council, Secretary Hermogenes Esperon Jr., members of the Climate Change Adaptation, Mitigation and Disaster Risk Reduction and Security, Justice and Peace clusters. Our partners from the private sector, civil societies, friends from the media and social media. Special mention to Duterte Force. Are you here? OFW Global Movement for Empowerment, Louder Philippines, Republic Defenders, Arangkadang Caviteño, Good Vibes Philippines, HR Mentoring, PWD Philippines, Philippine Marines, and Senior Officers Spouse Club. My fellow workers in government, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the third of our three-series forum on the 2018 Pre-State of the Nation Address with the general theme, Tatak ng Pagbabago, Tatak ng Katatagan. Briefly translated and summarized, this means the characteristic brand of change and resiliency. We shall gather today, gather all the work of government according to the respective clusters on the following: climate change adaptation, mitigation, disaster risk, resiliency and security, justice, and peace. And from the dialogues and the present accomplishments and future programs of these government mandates, we can arrive at the President's vision, marked by the compassion for those who need it most, by the unity of ideal purposes, regardless of political and religious differences, and by the desired change for an improved quality of life, personally internalized by every individual and externally influenced by government and civilian activities. Climate change resonates daily in our lives. Awareness is natural, but adaptation has varying degrees of observance and practice. Rain or shine, the heat and the coldness of temperatures are now affected by global warming. The often intense experiences to these changes have surfaced the need for mitigation whenever it is possible. Unfortunately, we have more to learn about lessening the destructive impact of natural disasters. And some time back, because of what Vice President Al Gore of the United States has called the inconvenient truth, our resiliency to natural disasters needed upgrading. And yet we have experienced, as in the superstorm surge, Yolanda, the worst catastrophe of the global climate crisis, compounded by the tragic consequences of inadequate preparedness and government support because of bad politics. Today, over the past 2 years of this new administration, what we have learned from the past 20 years or so has resulted in the President's forthcoming announcement regarding the creation of a regular cabinet department that would directly be responsible for risk reduction, mitigation, and resiliency. The details of this new development would be discussed during the session. Decisiveness in the leadership of our President Duterte and the immediacy of acting on the problems at hand are characteristic of our new government. The state of our nation has gained deep moral compulsion to do what is good and to act on what is right. This is the unifying force that has done away with pettiness and politicking. To do justice to everyone, especially to those who need justice the most, has become and will continue to be the compelling force that drives this government. The sad realities that we see in the houses described as made of light materials, easily consumed by fire, by the abuses of addiction, by the proclivity to crime, and by the absence of basic needs. It is there within those crowded hovels where this government is at work. In this third session, we invite you to engage dialogue within or with the government clusters on justice and peace, addressing the world of poverty and deprivation, and how this government has brought about the continuing transformation. The mechanism for change began with the words of the President in his first State of the Nation address. Change has continued even more aggressively over the past 2 years. Today, those first uttered words are now projects of development and progress. Justice and peace are in tandem with the security of our communities and our country as a whole. The content of how peace can be attained has been spelled out both for the urban and rural landscapes, including what threshold of understanding and calm can possibly be achieved with violent dissidents, terrorists, and other illegally armed groups. The President has not stopped talking about them as threats to peace, even as he continues to seek for the resolution of their misplaced cause. Sometime soon, a reawakening may yet overwhelm them, and this cabinet cluster may enlighten us with the alternatives. The series of forums are intended to metamorphose into the anticipated address of our President on July 23rd. In many ways, he has already articulated the people's desire for change and has often enough made a summary of the essentials. A draft of a new constitution is at bay, written by a consultative commission, while the two houses of Congress will still consolidate their respective versions. The concept of a federal form of government is proposed, and our voting public need to be better informed. Generally, it is imperative that the sensibilities of resiliency and change would be the hovering conditions in our minds as we move sustainably to the next 4 years of this government. Ang tatak ng katatagan ay kinakailangan nakaguhit sa ating mga puso at damdamin. May the confidence and the trust of our people continue to be the strength and the foundation of our dedicated public service. And may this forum be our reciprocal bonding. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Sa loob ng 2 taon na pamumuno ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, ay marami na tayong naranasan na tagumpay at pagbabago. Sa kanyang likas na tapang, malasakit at determinasyon, malinaw na siya ang makapaghahatid ng tunay na pagbabago sa ating mga Pilipino. Upang matupad ang mga layunin at hangarin ng ating administrasyon, kaakibat na ating Pangulo ang iba't ibang cabinet clusters sa paghahatid ng pagbabago. Sa kauna-unahang pagkakataon, ipinagkaloob ng administrasyon sa taong bayan ang Pre-SONA Fora kung saan ilalahad ng cabinet clusters ang kani-kanilang mga patakaran, proyekto at programa sa ilalim ng Administrasyong Duterte. Job opportunities, public transportation, business and agricultural growth at infrastructure projects. Mahalaga ang modernization at innovation sa pagunlad ng isang bansa. Saklaw ang mga ito ng Economic Development Cluster at Infrastructure Cluster Forum. Ito ang tatak ng pagunlad. Ang kapakanan ng mamamayang Pilipino ay isa sa mga prioridad ng ating administrasyon. Edukasyon, kalusugan at kabuhayan. Ito ang tatalakayin ng Participatory Governance Cluster at Human Development and Poverty Reduction Cluster. Ito ang tatak ng malasakit at pagkakaisa. kaligtasan ng bawat Pilipino, kapayapaan sa bansa, pagpapanatili ng kaayusan sa ating kalikasan, kalakasan, at pag-abot ng tulong ang paksa ng clusters ng security, justice, and peace at climate change adaptation, mitigation, and disaster risk reduction. Ito ang tatak ng katatagan. Dahil sa patuloy na pagsasagawa ng epektibo at mahusay na mga patakaran, proyekto at programa ng iba't ibang clusters, tunay na naipadama sa bawat Pilipino ang tatak ng pagbabago.
Now to give us a message and a walkthrough on the Cabinet Cluster System, let us welcome Yusek Gloria Humamil Mercado for a message from the Cabinet Secretary of the Philippines, Secretary Leoncio Evasco Jr.
Very honored today to have no less than the Executive Secretary, Secretary Salvador Miriadea, Environment and Natural Resources Secretary Roy Simato, Chairperson of the Climate Change, Adaptation, Mitigation, and Disaster Risk Reduction. The National Security Advisor, National Secretary Hermogenes Esperon Jr. of the National Security Council, Secretariat of the Security, Justice, and Peace Cluster. Cabinet members and representatives of the SGP cluster and the CCCAM, Secretary Al-Kusi of the Department of Energy, OIC-DILG Secretary Yusek Anyo, Sec Martin Andanar, Secretary Sitoy of PLLO, SDS Mike Ong, OPAP Nabil Tan, partners from the private sector, local, international, non-government organization, officials of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, headed by General Carlito Galvez, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and the Philippine National Police, fellow public servants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Allow me to read the message from the Cabinet Secretary, Leoncio B. Evasco Jr., and the occasion of the third and final SONA Forum, paving the way to the State of the Nation address of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte on Monday, July 23, 2018. It has been 2 years since Mayor Duterte took the helm of governing and leading the country. Amidst the challenges in governance and presidency, we are grateful to the various national and local agencies for aligning their efforts, improving their processes, and ensuring that the delivery of relevant and timely services of the people with pride, honor, and dignity. We are all witnesses to the President's commitment to bring about change in governance and to really make the lives of every Filipino here and abroad better. Dear honorable stakeholder of the climate change adaptation, mitigation, and disaster risk reduction, and the Security, Justice, and Peace Cluster, I wish to extend my sincerest gratitude to all of you for joining us today in our final Pre-SONA Forum. I also want to extend my greetings to the rest of the Filipinos here and abroad who are watching this telecast online as aired by our friends from the media. For its third and 2018 State of the Nation address, we have reformatted the SONA to allow the President to speak more freely on the matters that he would like to share to the people. Meanwhile, the accomplishment of the administration from July 2017 to 2018 are reported in advance to the people by his cabinet clusters to the theme, Tatak ng Pagbabago. Each Pre-SONA Forum allowed 2 clusters to report their accomplishment and delivered every week of July to set the stage for the President's SONA on the 23rd. The Pre-SONA Forum is a series of 3 sessions that the Office of the Cabinet Secretary designed with the concurrence of the Office of the Executive Secretary, the Office of the Special Assistant to the President and Presidential Management Staff, and the rest of the cabinet members, drumbeating the report of the President to the people in his second year in office. Its operationalization, however, is in partnership with the Presidential Communication and Operations Office. The forum aimed to highlight the accomplishment of the member agencies under the reorganized cabinet cluster of the President, mandated in Executive Order 24, Series of 2017. The first of this series, dubbed as Tatak ng Pag-Unlad, was conducted last July 6, highlighting the accomplishment of the member agencies of the Economic and Development Cluster. It was chaired by Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez, and the Infrastructure Cluster chaired by Public Works and Highways Secretary Mark Villar. Representatives from the member agencies, including the Secretariat of both clusters, from the National Economic Development Authority, with Secretary Ernesto Pernia and Deputy Director General Rose Edelion, sat in the panel during the open forum. The second set, dubbed as Tatak ng Malasakit at Pagkakaisa, conducted last week, July 11, highlighted the accomplishment of agencies under the Human Development and Poverty Reduction Cluster, with Acting Secretary Virginia Orogo of the Department of Social Welfare and Development as chairperson, together with Participatory Governance Cluster, headed by the officer in charge of the Department of Interior and Local Government, Undersecretary Ed Anyo as chairperson, and Budget and Development Secretary Ben Jokno as co-chair and secretariat. Representatives of the cluster members, including the National Anti-Poverty Commission as secretariat for SDPR, were also part of the panelists in the open forum. Today, the third and final session, dubbed as Tatak ng Katatagan, will highlight the accomplishment from member agencies under the Climate Change Adaptation, Mitigation, and Disaster Risk Reduction, with their accomplishment report to be delivered by Secretary Roy Simato, and the Security, Justice, and Peace Cluster, with their accomplishment report to be delivered by Secretary Hermogenes Esperon, on behalf of Secretary Delphin Lorenzana of the Department of National Defense, chairperson of the Security, Justice, and Peace Cluster. During the past two State of the Nation address of the President, he directed the Office of the Cabinet Secretary to streamline the efforts of the bureaucracy along the development and security governance framework of the administration. Part of the innovation in the bureaucracy was to rationalize the cluster system as embodied in EO 43, Series of 2011. The President signed Executive Order Number 24, Series of 2017, reorganizing the cabinet cluster system to make it more responsive to the key priorities of this administration, making the following significant changes. Human Development and Poverty Reduction Cluster, chaired by the Secretary of Department of Social Welfare and Development, with National Anti-Poverty Commission as its secretariat. The Security, Justice, and Peace Cluster used to be chaired by the Office of the Executive Secretary, is now chaired by the Secretary of National Defense, with the National Security Advisor as secretariat. The Climate Change Adaptation Mitigation Cluster is now added with the Disaster Risk Reduction Framework, making it CICICAM-DRR, chaired by the Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, with Climate Change Commission as secretariat. The Economic Development Cluster, chaired by the Secretary of Department of Finance, with National Economic Development Authority as its secretariat. The creation of the Infrastructure Cluster emanated from the trust of the administration to increase the infrastructure spending from 2% to 5 to 7% of the gross domestic product by 2022. The cluster is chaired by the Secretary of the Department of Public Works, with NEDA as its secretariat. The 5 clusters, taken as aggregate initiative, is a whole of governance approach, a whole of government approach. However, During the campaign, there was massive support from grassroots organizations and civil society, hence the decision to transform them to an accountability and transparency mechanism. So the former Good Governance Cluster, which was headed by the President, was converted to Participatory Governance Cluster. Participatory Governance Cluster is chaired by Secretary of the Department of Interior and Local Government with the Department of Budget and Management as co-chair and secretariat. The Participatory Governance Cluster effectively operationalized the whole-of-nation approach beyond rhetorics, as this became the window for civil society participation. This cluster is also consistent to the tenets of the Open Government Partnership, of which we are an original signatory. All the 6 clusters were required to come up with their good governance framework to include gender mainstreaming as a cross-cutting theme. The Office of the Cabinet Secretary is linking all the Cabinet cluster and is in charge of closely monitoring the commitments of the cluster through the Performance and Project Management Office that is facilitating and coordinating the implementation of the performance and the project roadmap of each cluster. These roadmap identify the target deliverables of each cluster consistent with the Philippine Development Plan 2017-2022 and the National Security Policy and Strategy 2017 to 2022. We hope that with the reports that will be delivered by the clusters today, our fellow Filipinos will have better appreciation on the continued effort of this administration and ensuring that real change will happen that will truly benefit the people, especially the marginalized sector of our society. We would like to extend our sincerest gratitude to the Department of Environment and Natural Resources for shouldering the cost of this event. Also, we once more thank the Presidential Communications and Operations Office, headed by Secretary Martin Andanar, his Undersecretary and Assistant Secretaries, and more than ever, the team of the Bureau of Communication Services, led by Director Howie Oiking, for the hard work in setting up all of this. Likewise, to the technical working group and secretaries of all clusters for the continued coordination in making this event successful. My appeal is that we continue to promote a shared responsibility and accountability with civil society in achieving the development goals of this administration. For the third sector, this will mean transforming the role of civil society from third-party observer to partner in development. Programs that allow people to participate in the promotion of peace and order, community development, citizen empowerment will be pursued to reach the remotest barangay. We have institutionalized a response and feedback mechanism, and the existing citizens hotline 8888 will be strengthened. The necessary follow-through protocols will be developed to ensure that response and feedback are systematically processed and tracked. We believe that the cornerstone of Ambition 2040 of a high-trust society is trust in government. Let us work together in strengthening institutions, engaging and empowering citizens, and providing enabling mechanism to improve access to public goods and services. On a final note, let me say that the call for public service is indeed a missionary zeal to serve, and we are all but passers-by after all. So I call on everybody to take our role at heart. Government alone cannot do this. This is, after all, a whole-of-nation approach, and we should all be taking our part in the overall nation building by actively engaging everyone in a participatory governance. Good morning.
mabigat ang kinakaharap natin, bunga ng pagbabago ng klima at mga kalamidad. The Cabinet Cluster on Climate Change Adaptation and Mitigation and Disaster Risk Reduction formulated its performance and projects roadmap for 2018 to 2022 to address these challenges. The Cabinet Cluster on Climate Change Adaptation, Mitigation, and Disaster Risk Reduction, CCAMP-DRR, presents CCAMP-DRR's Performance and Projects Roadmap. According to data from PAG-ASA and FIVOLCS, target are 22 vulnerable provinces. 8 will be priority areas to achieve desired impact. And 822 coastal municipalities based on the following criteria: high poverty incidence, high vulnerability to hazards, critical and degraded watershed location. Also identified are 4 major urban centers. DENR Secretary and Cluster Chairperson Roy A. Simatu said, "Climate change is chaos. We don't know when the worst will happen. We need unity, convergence, and synergy in our actions." Based on the baseline data, the roadmap was crafted by the cluster member agencies. In January 2018, the roadmap was adopted. It aims to establish climate and disaster-resilient communities supporting equitable and sustainable development. It is geared to attain 4 outcomes: increased resilience of vulnerable communities, ensured adequate supply of clean air, water, and other natural resources, increased resilience of critical infrastructure, enhanced knowledge, access to information, and institutional capacities. Program convergence budgeting is being pursued. It ensures that programs are planned, budgeted, and implemented in a coordinated manner. Sama-samang pagkilos at tuloy-tuloy na pakikipag-ugnayan ng mga ahensya sa bawat isa, sa mga lokal na pamahalaan, sa mga komunidad at sa pribadong sektor, naabot ang maraming layunin para matugunan ang hamon ng pagbabago ng panahon at mga kalamidad. The Cabinet Cluster on Climate Change Adaptation, Mitigation, and Disaster Risk Reduction reports its 2017 to 2018 accomplishments. Intense storms and tropical cyclones battered different parts of the archipelago from the latter half of 2017 to early 2018. Tropical cyclones Urtuha and Vinta affected thousands of families and left us billions of damages in agriculture and infrastructure. Tropical cyclones like Agaton and Bashang took a toll on our nation's economy. In 2017, an earthquake hit Ormoc City in Leyte. In January 2018, Mayon volcano erupted. Displacement of people numbered in the tens of thousands. Damage to property and agriculture amounted to billions of pesos. Climate change is upon us. Natural disasters are risks we have to confront. Adaptation is our only hope. Our only means to cope through, preparing the communities to respond, supporting them to be able to recover, increasing resiliency of our ecosystem, pursuing a low-carbon future. Yan ang tatak ng katatagan. Sa nakaraang taon, pagiging matatag, bunga ng maagap na paghahanda ang ating ipinamalas. In the Bicol region, Mayon volcano in Albay province erupted in January 2018. The quick and proactive response of the Albay provincial government and the full-hearted support and cooperation of the people of Albay resulted in our biggest achievement, zero casualty. Further, a substantial decrease in affected families and cost of damages from the effects of natural hazards was achieved.
Nagpapasalamat po kami sa maraming tulong na dumating sa amin, mga relief goods po, mga bagay na ginagamit namin sa pang-araw-araw. Mula po dito sa evacuee sa Kamalig Albay, nagpapasalamat po kami sa mga ahensya, sa mga taong nagpadala ng tulong, ng assistance, lalong-lalo na po sa ating Pangulo na si Pangulong Duterte. Nagpapasalamat po kami ng taus-puso sa lahat-lahat na pong nagbigay sa amin ng tulong.
State-of-the-art technology is an important component of our adaptation and mitigation efforts. We have begun the installation of weather forecasting and earthquake monitoring facilities. Saving lives remains our immediate concern. The Doppler radar stations in different areas accurately measure the direction, speed, and velocity of precipitation of an incoming storm. Flood forecasting and warning systems, including monitoring facilities, installed aid in the evacuation of people living in disaster-prone and low-lying areas. 4 seismic stations were installed in addition to the 98 existing stations all over the Philippines to provide reliable, fact-based earthquake data. We have 4 sea-level stations to warn us of any tsunami threat. Life-saving information from state-of-the-art technology strengthens our people's capacity to address climate change and natural disasters. The National Geohazard Assessment and Mapping Program identifies areas that may be prone to geologic threats. The Flood Hazard Map enables people to anticipate flooding and landslides. It guides our local disaster officials on the ground to prepare for the worst. We have started mapping the most vulnerable coastal provinces nationwide. These maps show information on the different sea level rise scenario in low-lying areas to prepare the people on coastal flooding. Under the Unified Mapping Program, we hope to see a future guided by reliable and accurate information. The Guadalupe Bridge in Makati and the Lambingan and Quezon bridges in Manila are currently undergoing retrofitting and improvement under the Metro Manila Priority Bridges Seismic Improvement Projects. In Pampanga, we are excavating and dredging 30.3 kilometers of the Third River and Eastern Branch. We are building a tide embankment in Leyte to protect the coastal communities from storm surges. This will shield thousands of houses and buildings, as well as kilometers of coastal areas. In the Cagayan de Oro River, the construction of an earth dike and a concrete flood wall is currently being undertaken to reduce the flooding in the area. Waste diversion is being improved to address flooding through closure of open dump sites, assisting local government units establish material recovery facilities, and operationalizing sanitary landfills. At least 1 billion pesos was allocated under People's Survival Fund for access by the LGUs. The fund will be used for projects that enhance the resiliency of communities and ecosystems, such as the approved projects in San Francisco, Cebu, and Gerona, Tarlac. Fishery livelihood projects were granted to various LGUs under the Malinis at Masaganang Karagatan Program, or MMK. The MMK program promotes sustainable management of fishery and aquatic resources. Heard about the big one? It is the movement of the West Valley Fault, which cuts across 6 cities in Metro Manila and nearby provinces, stretching over 100 kilometers. The movement of the West Valley Fault has resulted in 4 major earthquakes over the last 1,400 years. It has a recurrence interval of 400 to 500 years. The last earthquake from the West Valley Fault was recorded some 357 years ago. The threat of a major earthquake happening in Metro Manila is real. We have set up measures to strengthen citizen preparedness and to secure food and water. Our objective is to ensure that government service operations remain unhampered when disaster strikes. Pagiging matatag upang agad muling makabangon mula sa bagyo, lindol at iba pang kalamidad ay tatak ng pamayanang Pilipino. Financial mechanisms have been placed to help families affected by extreme weather conditions and natural disasters. A total of 3.3 million calamity-stricken households were assisted. The government released 77.75 billion pesos to the affected families. Relief assistance to victims play an important part in the aftermath of calamities and disasters. Cash for Work gave temporary employment to disaster-affected families. They work to restore damaged shelter and community facilities and are paid for their work. Some 275,098 typhoon-affected households were given cash for work, resulting in shorter, easier, and faster recovery time. 339,490 affected families were able to access 3.26 billion pesos assistance under the Emergency Shelter Cash Assistance. The 5K Presidential Financial Assistance Program gave more than 1 billion pesos worth of financial assistance to disaster victims. There is also the Survival and Recovery Assistance Program. It is an emergency post-disaster quick response loan program that is interest-free. In addition, about 15 billion pesos loans under the Production Loan Easy Access Program and Sustainable Livelihood Program were provided. These benefited 12,996 smallholder farmers and fisher folks and 134,923 households. We provided farming equipment support to Agrarian Reform Beneficiary Organizations, or ARBOS, as part of Common Service Facilities. Common Service Facilities are expected to increase production and achieve economies of scale. Solar pump irrigation systems were installed for organizations of agrarian reform beneficiaries. Fingerlings were dispersed to support the livelihood of fisher folks. 80 waterless municipalities, 171 waterless barangays, and 8 resettlement sites were provided with potable water. Immediate repair of damaged infrastructure such as classrooms, schools, health centers, and airport facilities lessens the time needed for communities to normalize. A total of 58.75 billion pesos for insurance protection and indemnities and claims were provided to farmers to help them from losses due to natural calamities, plant diseases, and pest infestation for rice, corn, and high-value crops. Pagiging matatag dulot ng pangangalaga ng likas na yaman ay pinaiigting. We must work toward resilient ecosystems, for it is in these systems that people live and derive their livelihood. We are slowly regaining our forest through our continuing greening program. The National Greening Program is not just a reforestation program, it also aims to create opportunities for communities to develop sustainable livelihood and mitigate impact of climate change.
NGP po, may funding na pupunta sa amin. Tapos yun, may mga katapat yun na activities. So, pati yung seedling production, may budget yun. Tapos yung pagtatanim, may budget din siya. Tapos yung weeding, yung strip brushing, may mga budget lahat yun. Laking tulong kasi kahit hindi siya enough na mag-sustain doon sa plantation, pero at least may initial. Yung once unproductive land, naging productive. Masaya lahat. Masaya si ecosystem, masaya si environment, masaya si farmer.
talagang tumutulong sa amin yung EGP kasi po marami na pong mga ahensyang pumupunta tumutulong sa amin. Binibigyan po kami ng kopi haler, lahat-lahat yun marami kasi nakilala na po kami yung mga project sa EGP na po namin, nalalagaan namin. So maraming salamat sa mga grupo namin na pinagkatiwala niya nga sinusuportahan po nila yung mga project namin.
Relentless efforts to curb illegal logging, illegal wildlife trafficking, illegal construction of fish pens, and enforcement of other environmental laws are imperative to protect our environment and natural resources. Just recently, illegal deep wells of Pepsi-Cola Bottling Company in Las Piñas were shut down. They were also slapped with more than 11 million pesos as penalty for extracting deep well water without permit. This is a strong indication of our seriousness in the implementation of laws on water. 2 construction companies were shut down for illegal dumping of waste materials and garbage in a shoreland area in Taguig City. The illegal reclamation and backfilling activities have already exceeded the carrying capacity of the lake. We cannot and will not allow this. Recently, the Anti-Illegal Mining Task Force conducted anti-illegal small-scale mining operations within the Philippine Military Academy in Baguio City. Cease and desist orders were issued against illegal mining operations and cases were filed. Mining rehabilitation is being pursued in Samar, Palawan, and Romblon as well. The temporary closure of Boracay Island on April 26, 2018, as ordered by the President, led to decisive efforts to rehabilitate Boracay. These include the clearing of illegal structures, and 435 structures will be removed in Barangay Manok-Manok, Bulabog, and Yapak. Completion of the rehabilitation, evacuation areas with ready water power facilities and 2-day food packs and other assistance. Road widening in Bulabog Circumferential Road and Diversion Road at Sitio Bulabog. Cutting of 21 illegal pipes along the White Long Beach after the conduct of ground-penetrating radar survey. Completion subsidence hazard mapping of 40 sinkholes in the island. To support the affected families and workers in Boracay, the government provided 39 million pesos financing to Aklan Farmers and Fisherfolks Cooperative through Production Loan Easy Access Plea Program. Released grant in the amount of 19,845,000 pesos to 1,323 families through Micro Enterprise Assistance Grants, MAG, and Employment Support Grant, ESG. Assisted 1,744 individuals under the Tulong Panghanap Buhay para sa ating displaced, disadvantaged workers. Tupad, allotted 9.7 million pesos for trainings, alternative livelihood, or employment to affected residents, workers, and other stakeholders.
Maraming salamat sa Diyos dahil tinulungan naman itong diin. Siyempre kayo naman talaga ang tinulungan. Ayun nga lugar hindi mapasukan, pero ngayon ay ang ganda-ganda na. Sabi ko, ay salamat Panginoon. Sana ipapagtatag mo ang mga taong na may mga karapatan din. Huwag mong ipabayaan para madalis nila yung mga gawain.
Actually, sir, para sa amin is an answered prayer na yung mga problema na namin sa palibot dumating na sa heaven, tapos naging instrument na bumagsak doon sa Malacanang, ginamit ng instrument ng goodness si Digong, katulad na kayo.
To protect our coastal resources, 19 marine protected areas were established in 9 regions nationwide. The continuing delineation of municipal waters establishes the preferential uses of waters in accessing coastal and marine resources. Mapping of coastal habitats for potential community livelihood opportunities were also undertaken. The President has signed Republic Act 11038 on June 22, 2018, or the expanded National Integrated Protected Area System Act of 2018, which will ensure effective management and declaration of other protected areas in the country. The E-NIPAS law has added 94 additional legislated protected areas all over the Philippines and ensure better conservation and protection measures of our protected areas. We are grateful to the efforts and support of the Congress in biodiversity conservation. On May 15, 2018, the President signed Proclamation 489. It declared a portion of the Philippine Rise as a marine reserve. The proclamation prohibits the disturbance of marine life in the Philippine Rise. 49,684 hectares will be closed to all human activities and will be dedicated primarily for scientific study and ceremonial use by indigenous peoples. We continue to act in improving quality of air through implementing a shift in the use of cleaner fuel to Euro 4. Under the Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program, jeepneys will be replaced with Euro 4 compliant engines. This program shall reduce by almost half, or 43%, the carbon emissions emanating from vehicles. The government has embarked on a Green program with 2.5 billion pesos earmarked in 2018 for open space development and promotion green infrastructures. Paggamit ng malinis na enerhiya para maging matatag sa pagharap sa pagbabago ng klima at kalamidad. Building the resiliency of vulnerable communities requires availability of renewable energy. More than a third, or 33.8% of our total primary energy supply were sourced from renewable energy. More than 1,000 megawatts were generated from energy efficiency and conservation programs equivalent to 5.8 million tons of carbon dioxide avoidance. As of March 2018, there are already 227 renewable energy service operating contracts with a total potential capacity of 9,840.93 megawatts. These include hydropower, wind, solar, biomass, and geothermal projects. The government encourages the transition from oil to cleaner sources of energy. To promote low-carbon technologies, a total of 1,124 electric tricycles, or e-trikes, were donated to various local government units. Around 131 solar-powered lamps were turned over to Task Force Bangon Marawi. It is in resiliency that we find our greatest hope to address risks in climate change and natural disasters. For us in government, this resiliency is hinged on 4 key elements, backstopped by the trust and cooperation of the Filipino people. We are all in this together, and there is no turning back.
Sa likod ng mga programa at inisyatibang ito ay ang iba't ibang ahensya na bumubuo ng Cabinet Cluster on Climate Change Adaptation, Mitigation, and Disaster Risk Reduction. Tinatawagan natin ngayon ang chairperson ng Cabinet Cluster on Climate Change, Adaptation, Mitigation, and Disaster Risk Reduction mula sa Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Secretary Roy A. Simato.
Isang taos-pusong pasasalamat sa mga ahensyang binubuo ng Cabinet Cluster on Climate Change, Adaptation, Mitigation, and Disaster Risk Reduction, o CCAM-DRR. The cluster has 20 member agencies. Maraming salamat din sa iba-ibang mga ahensya na narito ngayon. Kinatawan ng Kongreso at lokal at pamahalaan. The programs and initiatives just reported show the commitment and hard work the government is doing to respond to the impacts of climate change and to be prepared in case of disaster. Binabati ko rin ang mga iba't ibang organisasyon na narito ngayon mula sa hanay ng akademya, civil society at private sector. Dahil sa kanilang suporta, mas nagiging kabuluhan ang pagsasagawa ng mga plano at programa. Marami pang mga gawain na dapat pagbutihin at pag-igihan. Hence, the CCAM-DRR Cabinet Cluster will embark on future activities that will ensure that we build adaptive and resilient communities. We will install 6 seismic stations in Laak in Compostela Valley, Tandag City in Surigao del Sur, Alabat Island in Quezon, General Nakar in Quezon, Pakil in Laguna, Talim Island in Rizal. This will make a total of 104 stations in 2019 and 115 stations until 2022. 4 Dopplers will be installed in Bohol, Masbate, Agno, and Lawang, and 6 stationary X-band radars in Talacogon in Agusan, Panabo in Davao, Cabacan, Cotabato, Kabangkalan, Negros, Kawayan, Isabela, and Rojas, Capiz. 10 flood forecasting and warning systems will be established in 10 major river basins in the country, namely in Apayao, Abra, Panay, Ilog, Hilabangan, Agos, Taguluan, Mindanao River Basin covering Cotabato, Davao, Buayan, Malongon, and Agusan. To improve tsunami early warning system, the government will establish 1 sea level station in Colasi, Antique, bringing the total of 18 stations for completion. To mitigate flood damage and protect lives and properties from natural disasters, the government will undertake the following: construction of dikes of river channels in Taguluan River in Misamis Oriental, construction of expressways through the public-private partnership with a total target of 158 kilometers expressway to be completed until 2022. Construction of new roads to close gaps in the national road network, targeting 1,782 kilometers until 2022. Improvement of national roads along priority corridors to at least 4 lanes with complete features targeting 3,100 kilometers from 2017 to 2022. Construction of 2 off-site retarding basins along Imus and Bacoor River and rehabilitation of Wangwang Bridge in Nueva Vizcaya. We will increase cash for work amount from 75% to 100% of approved regional minimum daily wage rate. We will enhance provision of support to farmers and fisher folks through expansion of insurance coverage and to more insurance beneficiaries. For 2019, 138 million seedlings will be planted to 143,000 hectares of land under the National Greening Program. Forest protection will be enhanced as well. Our President has spoken out on mining, warning mining companies to shape up. We have been reviewing the mine closure and suspension orders with the help of third-party experts based on economic, social, environmental, legal, and technical criteria. We expect the results of the review to be available for disclosure this July. We will be coming out with a proposed policy reinventing mining that will spread the benefits for the people without compromising the environment and natural resources of the country. This is Boracay Island now. After all the interagency interventions. We are rushing to address the deterioration of Boracay Island within the 6-month period given to us by the President. People are even suggesting for a 1-year closure with a 64% approval rating on the Social Weather Station survey. But we will stick to the 6-month deadline. Among others, there is also a need to protect Boracay Island, as this is part of the migration route for endangered marine animals like whale shark or butanding. Butanding was sighted in the Boracay waters last June 23, 2018. We will be able to open Boracay again and take pride in bringing back the island to its former glory. Boracay Island will not be seen again as a cesspool. We will extend our efforts to other island destinations with our greening and island programs. We will increase renewable energy installed capacity to at least 20,000 megawatts. We will also ensure secured and stable supply of energy through technology-responsive energy sector. We will pursue a measurable reduction in energy intensity and consumption per year versus business as usual. Sa gitna ng mga kalamidad, sa harap ng bagyo at lindol, ang katatagan ng loob ang pangunahing dahilan ng mabilis na pagbangon ng ating mga kababayan. The Cabinet Cluster on CCAM-DRR commits to ensure the safety and survival of our people, especially the poor and the marginalized sectors, against extreme weather events and natural disasters. Bawat Pilipino ay dapat makakatulog ng walang pangamba at agam-agam na sa kanilang kooperasyon ang pamahalaan ay magkaroon ng kakayanang pangangalagaan laban sa anumang bagyo at lindol. Susi ang ating pagsama-sama, pagkakaisa at pagtulong-tulungan. Iyan ang tatak ng katatagan, iyan ang tatak ng Pilipino. Mabuhay ang sambayanang Pilipino. Maraming salamat po. Yeah.
Thank you once again, Secretary Roy Simatu. We will have a 10-minute interval, so please enjoy that. Once again, this is Tatak ng Pagbabago, a Pre-SONA 2018 forum brought to you by the Office of the Cabinet Secretary and the Presidential Communications Operations Office. Our ushers will now be moving around to collect the questions you have written on your index cards. Once again, our ushers will now be moving around to collect the questions you have written on your index cards. Thank you.
Sa paligid mo'y nagaganap sa amot-saring perwisyo't kung ano-anong kalamidad. Hindi ka ba nababahala? Ito ba'y iyo lamang binabalewala? Unti-unting nakakalbo ang gubat natin at mundo, habang ang mga lawat ilog natin ay natutuyot. Hindi ka ba nakaalarma? sa akin dumarampi. Huni ng ibon na parang ako ay inaawitan, may kapayapaan. Sa bughaw na kalangitan, ako'y nakatingin. Tanging dalangin mo't sanang maglaho ang lahat ng ito. Okay, sarap pagmasdan mga puno't mga halaman, mga bulaklak at makulay nakapaligiran. Ating pagmasdan, taglay nitong kagandahan. Ating pag-ingatan, ang regalo ng Diyos sa ating iniwan. Ikaw sa kayamanan, wag hayaang masira na lang. Kaligaw sa pangalagaan na nanatiling kung may pag-ibig. O kalpitat sa dibdib, tao ay nagpapaya. Ang ganda nitong mundo, unti-unting namumura, nawawala. Ating pagmasdan, taglay nitong kagandahan. Ating pag-ingatan, ang regalo ng Diyos sa ating iniwan. Ikaw sa
The Philippines has received an Open Budget Index score of 67 out of 100, making the Philippines #1 in Asia in terms of fiscal openness.
Yung mga teacher na pupunta sa abroad, nagtatrabaho ng kung ano-anong trabaho, in-encourage na bumalik dito at mag-apply. Dahil ang sweldo ngayon ng public school teacher, mas mataas pa or equivalent to what they can earn abroad.
I would like to assure the Filipino farmers, ang inyo pong gobyerno, ang inyo pong pamahalaan ay hindi po bingi at bulag. Pinapakinggan po namin ang hinaing ng ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda at tinutugunan po namin ito.
Hangarin po ng ating Pangulo na ang health services na ibinibigay ng ating DOH at mga LGU. Kaya please don't doubt the capacity of this administration.
Truly, the roadmap to achieving an improved quality of life for all may not be easy for us. But we affirm continuously that alone, we can only do so much. But together, as one family, we can do everything.
We have just signed an MOU with the government of Kuwait where maximum and optimum protection are provided our overseas workers. Yung gusto ng ating Pangulo na ang ating mga overseas workers, yung kanilang passport, hindi dapat hawak ng employers nila, hawak ng ating embahada.
basura'y nagkalat, ang usok ay lumalaganap. Anong nangyari sa sayaw ng mga dahon? Di ko na marinig masayang huni ng ibon. Malinaw na batis, nasan ka na ngayon? Tulungan, tulungan ang paligid. Umiyak, umiyak ang langit. Inabuso ang lupa kay itim na ng tubig. Nanananghoy na itong ating daigdig. Nasan ang magandang kulay? Tila ba nawawalan na ng buhay? Dating paraisong abot ng kamay, sa panaginip na lang ba masisilayan? Di ko na kailangan ng isang panaginip. Ang kailangan ko ay ang tulong mo, upang ibalik ang dating paraiso. Para sa'yo, para sa buong mundo. Kay ganda ng kulay. Mayaman, mayaman sa buhay. Ito ang paraisong likha ng may kapal. Ibig ng kalikasan, mahalin mong tunay. Ito ang himig ng inang kalikasan.
Wala ka bang napupuna o aking kaibigan sa mga nangyayari?
Ladies and gentlemen, please settle down. We will resume the program in a few minutes. Thank you.
Mga ilog natin, suray kumakalat. Saan ka ba tumingin? Sinong sisihin sa mga nangyayaring ito? Tayong mga tao na siyang may kagagawa. Kalikasan ay ating ingatan. Buhay natin dito nakasalalay. Tayo at ang kalikasan nag-iisa. Konektado tayo sa isa't isa. Huwag nating hayaan ito'y masira. Para sa mga musumos pang darating. Para sa mga musumos pang
Tatak ng Pagbabago, a Pre-SONA forum can be live streamed through Facebook pages of the Presidential Communications Operations Office, Office of the Cabinet Secretary, Philippines, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Department of National Defense, and Climate Change Commission Philippines. Please use the hashtag Tatak ng Pagbabago and hashtag Duterte Sona 2018 in all your social media posts. Please settle down. We will resume the program in a few minutes. Thank you.
tayong mga tao na siyang may kagagawa. Kalikasan ay ating ingatan. Buhay natin dito nakasalalay. Tayo at ang kalikasan nag-iisa. Konektado tayo sa isa't isa. Huwag nating hayaan ito'y masira. Para sa mga musumos kalikasan, ito'y ating mahalin at laging alagaan. Biyayang kailangan sa kanya nagmumula. Wala na tayong makukuha pag siya ay nasira. Kaya nga't habang di pa huli ang lahat, kumilos na tayo at siya'y iligtas. Huwag nang abusuin at lapas tanganin, dahil pag siya'y gumanti walang makakapigil. Ating ingatan si Inang kalikasan. Siya'y ating buhay, karugtong ng ating buhay. Kalikasan ay ating ingatan, buhay natin dito nagkasalalay. Tayo at ang kalikasan ay isa, konektado tayo sa isa't isa. Huwag natin hayaang ito'y masira, para sa mga musumos pang darating. Para sa mga musumos pang darating. Para sa mga musumos pang darating.
Putol ng kahoy kahit iligal. Buhay ng mamamayan ang isinusugal. Kung kaya't nang maningil na ang inang kalikasan, libu-libong buhay ang inutang. Basura ay itinatapon kahit saan. Kaya't marumi, mabaho.
Ladies and gentlemen, please settle down. We are about to resume the program. Thank you.
Kalikasan, tayo ay papalapit sa katapusan. Malayo na rin nga ang narating na rakam. Nakamta ng pagulad na inasam.
The Security, Justice and Peace Cabinet Cluster, or SJPCC, is one of the clusters reorganized by virtue of Executive Order No. 24, signed by President Rodrigo Duterte on May 16, 2017. The SJPCC seeks to ensure the preservation of national sovereignty and the rule of law, and focus on the promotion of the welfare and well-being of the people, and the pursuit of a just, comprehensive, and lasting peace. These are the agencies composing the SJPCC. The SJPCC crafted its performance and projects roadmap for 2017 to 2022, which highlights key programs and priority legislative agenda that are meant to promote and sustain efforts on national security, justice, and peace. The SJPCC aims to enhance our capability to defend our air and maritime domains, strengthen cooperation with traditional and non-traditional allies to ensure territorial sovereignty, maritime security, and defense, and secure the future by instilling love of country and inspiring our people to do their share in defending the nation. As friend to all and enemy to none, the Philippines pursues an independent foreign policy by expanding the country's global presence, strengthening engagements with traditional and non-traditional partners, and pursuing strategic priorities in international fora. The SJPCC shall continue to engage stakeholders on maritime matters, including on the West Philippine Sea and the negotiation of an ASEAN-China Code of Conduct in the South China Sea. As part of its efforts to protect the national territory and boundaries, the SJPCC is pursuing the following initiatives.
the government is carrying out a 6-point peace and development roadmap that reflects its strong commitment to achieve just and lasting peace in the country through the following programs. The armed forces of the Philippines, consisting of the Philippine Army, the Philippine Navy, and the Philippine Air Force, assure the promotion of peace, security, and stability through these programs. Defending, serving, and empowering Filipinos to champion lasting peace, security, and justice that serve as solid foundations of socio-economic development. Implementation of the Government of the Philippines, Moro National Liberation Front, Final Peace Agreement. Implementation of the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro. Payapa at Masaganang Pamayanan Program to address the needs of marginalized sectors in conflict-affected communities. National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security to engage women in the peace process. To assure the welfare of the Filipino overseas, additional consular offices were opened, mobile passport services increased, and assisting Filipinos anywhere in the world provided with assistance. The SJPCC resolves to strengthen the rule of law in the country through the following programs. Assuring the people an efficient and impartial justice system. Committing to advance human rights. The following are the key legislative measures being proposed by the SJPCC.
Guided by this roadmap, under the President's strong leadership, your Security, Justice, and Peace Cluster commits to work towards a more secure and prosperous nation. Hangad po naming maging matatag, maginhawa, at panatag ang sambayanan.
Okay pa ba tayo? Are we still okay? Oh, that's very good. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our Secretary for the Department of Interior and Local Government, Secretary Anyo. Nandito rin po siya. Kanina, nandito si Secretary Cusi. Nawala si Secretary Cusi. Dito. Wala pa si Secretary Cusi. Secretary Maynard Guevara ng DOJ. Palakpakan po natin. At ang ating Secretary Adelino Sitoy. Mamaya po ay ating tatawagin iba pang mga present dito sa ating tatak ng pagbabago. Let us continue with today's tatak ng pagbabago. Now with Security, Justice, and Peace Cluster, welcome on stage Secretary Hermogenes June S. Peron of the National Security. Mga kababayan, mga panauhin, members of the Cabinet led by Executive Secretary Medja Aldia, palapakan po natin ang ating bossing. Fellow workers in government, both in the uniform sector as well as in the civilian sector. Thank you for joining today. Magandang tanghali sa ating lahat. I am honored to present on behalf of the Security, Justice, and Peace Cabinet Cluster our accomplishments that form part of the President's third State of the Nation address. With this report, we manifest our determination, our stability or katatagan in carrying out our mandate in the Security, Justice, and Peace cluster. The programs and projects of the Security cluster are responsive to the Philippine Development Plan and the National Security Policy, both dated 2017 and up to 2022, and the National Security Strategy, which we have just published this year, 2018. One of the major programs is the war against drugs. Naniniwala kaming mas matatag ang isang bansa na malaya sa tanikala ng bawal na gamot. In response to the President's SONA directive to intensify anti-illegal drugs campaign from July 2016 to June 2018, our campaign has resulted to the surrender of more than 1.2 million drug personalities, the arrest of 49,265 persons, and 4,540 drug lords and pushers who opted to fight it out were neutralized. Clearing of 18,388 barangays nationwide from illegal drugs, or 62% of the total 29,749 drug-affected barangays. The rehabilitation of 208,000 drug surrenderies, representing 16.4% of the total 1.2 million target. The confiscation of 13.5 billion worth of drugs, shabu, precursors, and essential chemicals in 2017. Our campaign covered a total of 5,275 barangays by advocacy campaign, capacitated 757 cities and municipalities on information and intelligence gathering. We have established drug rehabilitation and treatment centers, supervised 17 treatment and rehabilitation centers, 3 of which are operational. 2 are ongoing in construction, and 13 are on their preparatory stages. Partnership with local government units successfully developed their respective 3-year peace and order and public safety plans for 2017 to 2019. And 99.9% of the 42,036 barangays nationwide, including those in the ARMM, have organized or reorganized their barangay anti-drug abuse committees, or BADACs. Our efforts in the fight against illegal drugs and criminality has resulted in reduced crime volume by 11% in 2017. On index and non-index crimes, we have noted a 22.8
and 7.3% decrease, respectively. On anti-criminality, we have recorded a 5% increase on crime clearance efficiency and a 4% increase on crime solution efficiency in 2017. These gains were reflected in the lives of Filipinos as they felt safer in 2017. In December 2017 SWS survey, 57% of Filipino adults nationwide said the safety of their family is better now compared to 6 months ago. In that same survey of the SWS, the President had a net satisfaction rating of 58% or 71 minus 13 plus correct minus wrong as SWS would have it. Talking about surveys, may I also mention that in the June 2018 survey of Pulse Asia, the President garnered a satisfaction rating of 88%. On illegal logging, illegal mining, illegal fishing, smuggling, and piracy, the Joint Peace and Security Coordinating Councils at different levels had successfully launched law enforcement operations. As to criminal prosecution, there was significant increase in the number of cases filed in court and convictions secured, indicating better build-up and evidence gathering by law enforcers, as well as improved preliminary investigation efficiency by the Department of Justice prosecutors. We pursued efforts to improve criminal investigation and prosecution, including plea bargaining, bail bond, evidence management, harmonized procedures, and data sharing. Legislative initiatives to streamline criminal investigation towards more effective prosecution is also being pursued and supported. The Interagency Council Against Trafficking has continued to aggressively work against various forms of human trafficking, including prostitution, cyber pornography, and child sexual and labor exploitation. These efforts have resulted in the Philippines having been consistently cited as a model for anti-human trafficking efforts in the ASEAN region. The DOJ and DILG are undertaking efforts to decongest local jails and national prisons to increase capacity and improve physical conditions of inmates. Procedures on good conduct time allowances of inmates have also been harmonized to facilitate rehabilitation and timely release. Addressing terrorism and violent extremism is one of our major efforts. We have conducted focused operations against the communist terrorist group, which for the period resulted to the neutralization of approximately 8,700 communist terrorist group personalities and the recovery of 2,246 firearms. We conducted operations against the Abu Sayyaf, resulting to the neutralization of more than 600 ASG personalities and the recovery of more than 300 firearms and the surrender of 255 Abu Sayyaf personalities who are now surrendering for the first time in large numbers. We conducted ground operations against the BIFF, which resulted to the neutralization of more than 300 BIFF personalities and the recovery of more than 100 firearms. On May 23, 2017, the President declared martial law in Mindanao to better address the Marawi siege launched by the Daesh Maote terrorist groups. In 5 months of up to October 2017, by combined government forces, we performed intense combat intelligence, and special operations, which led to the resounding defeat of the Daesh forces in Marawi City. This prevented the establishment of a wilayat or a province of the ISIS that could have been based in Marawi to work out the whole of the region. The following were the results of the operations. 955 Maote ISIS members neutralized, 35 Maote ISIS members arrested, 902 firearms captured, 2,594 unexploded ordnance and improvised detonating device, explosive device seized, 12 kilos of shabu seized, 424 drug personalities nabbed, and 1,918 hostages rescued. With this, the President declared the liberation of Marawi on 17 October 2017. The Interagency Task Force Bangon Marawi was after that created to rehabilitate Marawi and assist displaced persons. On conflict prevention and management, 2 programs for women and youth are now being implemented. The Marawi incident is merely a symptom of the international issue on terrorism. As such, at our regional level, we strengthened cooperation and coordination with our neighboring countries, Indonesia and Malaysia, to help the government's counter-terrorism program and in managing non-traditional security threats. As an added feature, joint maritime command centers were activated in the borders. We acknowledge at this point that the Philippines, in our fight against terrorism, received donations for operations and rehabilitation of Marawi from allies and partners, as shown. The Duterte administration is committed to attain just, comprehensive, and lasting peace for all. With the MNLF and MILF, we are working for the passage and ratification of the Bangsamoro Basic Law, which will give rise to the creation of the Bangsamoro political entity that will replace the ARMM and support or cement convergence of the peace agreements with the MILF and MNLF into one Bangsamoro peace process. With the CPP, NPA, NDF, the government will continue the peace process through negotiations, subject to the preconditions that are set by no less than the President. Meantime, localized peace negotiations will be pursued at all levels, regional, provincial, municipal level. Peace and development convergence programs such as the Payapa at Masaganang Pamayanan Program or PAMANA, which has been allotted a total of 8 billion in 2017 and another 7 billion for 2018. This program covers 7 Pamano zones in 12 regions, 39 provinces, and 239 municipalities across the country, which now will be vigorously pursued and implemented. To prevent and manage conflict, the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process has introduced the People's Peace Tables and the Mindanao IP, Legislative Assembly for the Bangsamoro Basic Law. Implemented also the Enhanced Comprehensive Local Integration Program, or the ECLIP, that aims to provide former rebels with firearm remuneration and housing assistance of up to 450,000 pesos, among others. Part of the ECLIP are the halfway houses that serve as transition shelters of rebel returnees for complete integration into mainstream society. Happy Home in Davao Oriental has become the model for over 20 halfway houses to be built for the entire country. We are proud to report that there were already 45 former rebels who graduated from Happy Home last 18 June of this year. Now, in protecting our territory, sovereignty, and sovereign rights, these are the initiatives that we have undertaken. To ensure maritime domain awareness, the DND-AFP conducted naval surface patrols to cover more than 180,000 nautical miles of our maritime domain and more than 2,400 flying hours of maritime patrol. Augmenting maritime domain awareness are our littoral monitoring stations, resulting in the monitoring of more than 66,000 foreign and domestic vessels sighted. To maintain effective occupation over Philippine islands and features, our armed forces deployed more personnel to these areas. Further, the Defense Department has begun rehabilitation of structures in our islands in the Kalayaan Island Group. The construction of the beaching ramp and repair of runway in Pag-asa Island are now ongoing. Up. Huh? Up. Is it moving? Up. Forward. Okay. The government continues to engage China relative to our concerns in the West Philippine Sea through high-level visits and meetings, including the bilateral consultation mechanism. These efforts seek to improve the ability of both sides to manage developments in the West Philippine Sea so as not to escalate tensions, to widen access of Filipino artisanal fishermen in Scarborough Shoal, and to protect our environment and marine ecosystem. The government actively participated in the ASEAN-China processes for the peaceful management and resolution of disputes in the South China Sea, underscoring the importance of the declaration of the Code of Conduct in its entirety and the framework for the Code of Conduct of the parties in the South China Sea. Coordination and harmonization of policies and government actions concerning the Philippine maritime domain were done through the Integrated Management Plan for the Philippine rice and the review of all permits to conduct marine scientific research in the Philippine rice. We conducted high-profile commemoration rites of the Philippine rice on 15 May 2018. Consistent with the foreign policy strategy of the President to be a friend to all, an enemy to none, the government strengthened ties with traditional partners and enhanced ties with non-traditional partners, and continued to enhance its global presence. We do this to promote and protect Philippine national interests and to help foster a stable security environment for the country to develop. The administration undertook several high-level bilateral engagements that led to the mutually beneficial cooperative arrangements covering various sectors from economics to defense. In pursuit of our security interests, our high-level bilateral engagements with our traditional partners led to cooperation on transnational crimes, counterterrorism, and extremism, among others. Trainer aircrafts from Japan and maritime cooperation between the Philippine Coast Guard and the Navy and the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force, mobile training teams for urban warfare training and maritime security training from Australia, bilateral security cooperation between the National Security Council of the Philippines and the Office of National Security of Thailand on disaster preparedness and maritime security. Cooperation with the Air Force and the National Police of the Republic of Korea, maritime security cooperation with Indonesia, high-level cooperation between Malaysia on counter-terrorism and other security areas to include intelligence exchange, and cooperation with Chinese Coast Guard on counter-terrorism and drugs rehabilitation facilities. We forged defense and security agreements with other countries, as shown. The Philippine government also actively engaged non-traditional partners such as the Russian Federation. The government also engaged other important countries in different regions as shown. The leadership of the Philippines during the ASEAN on its 50th foundation anniversary in 2017 resulted in a more inclusive, people-centered, resilient, and relevant ASEAN community, ready for the future and benefiting the Filipino people. The NSA headed the Philippine delegation to the first United Nations high-level conference of heads of counterterrorism agencies of member states in June 2018 at the headquarters of the United Nations. In this conference, I reported that the CPP-NPA has been committing the same brutal atrocities like the Daesh in their operations. Finally, the Philippine government advanced its interests in the international setting and showed that it is a responsible member in the community of nations. As part of our national security initiatives, the government continued to look after the welfare of overseas Filipinos by providing various forms of protection and assistance. The assistance to nationals fund was increased to 1 billion pesos and the legal assistance fund to 200 million under the 2018 budget. Shown are some of the noteworthy assistance to nationals ATN operations conducted by the Philippine government to repatriate workers from Libya, Saudi Arabia, the Caribbean, Abu Dhabi, and Kuwait. Since 2017, the government has signed 3 bilateral labor agreements with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait, which are the top three of the top 10 destinations of overseas Filipino workers. The Philippines-Sweden Social Security Agreement, which was ratified in February 2017 and concurred by the Senate on 22 January 2018, while the Philippines-Germany Social Security Agreement was entered into force on the 1st of June 2018. At home, the Department of Foreign Affairs extended the validity of the passports to 10 years and opened additional consular offices outside of Metro Manila. The defense and security sector included improvements in internal systems and processes. These improvements are in the form of capability enhancements, such as the procurement of equipment and modernization of the armed forces and the Philippine National Police. On the capability upgrade of the armed forces, a total of 27 projects were completed from the start of administration up to March 2018. Meanwhile, a total of 13 projects are ongoing under the Horizon 2 list of the revised AFP modernization program. As part of this country's engagements with partners, there were 24 types of donated equipment from China, Russia, Japan, and the United States of America. In an effort to institutionalize a highly efficient, competent, credible, and professionalized corps of police personnel, we conducted various education and training programs. We increased the base pay of military and uniformed personnel in varying percentages. We provided necessary benefits, development, and livelihood assistance to battle and duty casualties, including their dependents. The Veterans Affairs Office ensures that the Filipino veterans, as well as those who retired from active service in the armed forces, will be given proper and adequate benefits. We provided hospitalization subsidy to veterans and their dependents admitted at military and government hospitals nationwide. We continuously uphold the legacy and memory of our veterans and heroes through development of the libingan ng mga bayani into a world-class national shrine. We continuously promote patriotism through our Love of Country program. Beyond the foregoing initiatives, it is critical for the defense and police sectors to establish human rights offices and desks. The principles of human rights are continuously internalized by all military and police personnel. Moving forward, these are the cluster's future plans. Continue the programs that protect the national territory and boundaries, safeguarding territorial integrity, sovereignty, and sovereign rights. we will continue to carry out the cluster's diplomacy program by enhancing and strengthening engagements with the Philippines' traditional and non-traditional partners, expanding global presence, and pursuing national interest in all fora. Strengthening the rule of law, particularly on law enforcement and capacity enhancement, on anti-illegal drugs, and on anti-criminality. On the comprehensive peace process, we continue to commit to the pursuit of just and lasting peace with the MILF, the Moro National Liberation Front, the CPP, NPA, NDF, and other threat groups. We are not against peace negotiations. Ensuring the welfare of Filipino overseas workers through consular service and assistance to national service. Implementing justice system reforms. Advancing and protecting human rights. And lastly, to support the defense and security sector development through modernization and capability enhancement. In closing, may I quote our Commander-in-Chief, "I will improve the economy, but I hold it as an article of faith that no progress or development can never really hone, especially in the countryside, if there is really no peace at all." With the foregoing from the members of the National Security, Justice, and Peace Cluster, thank you very much for your support. We promise you more service. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary June Esperon, and we would like to thank all of our secretaries who have shared with us today the milestones of their departments and the milestones of our country and what we have been experiencing for the last year, and for sharing with us as well the bright and promising future for every Filipino. Earlier today, we collected questions from our audience, and now may we ask the panelists from each cluster to come up on stage as we open the floor to the questions. Ladies and gentlemen, our panelists for today: Executive Secretary Bingbong Medialdea, National Security Advisor, Secretary June Esperon. For the Department of Foreign Affairs, Under Secretary Enrique Manalo. For the DILG, Acting Secretary Eduardo Año. Representing the Office of the Presidential Advisor for Peace Process, Under Secretary Nabil Tan. Representing the Department of National Defense, Under Secretary Cardoso Luna. Representing the Office of the Cabinet Secretary, Under Secretary Gloria Mercado. The department that paid for your meals today. Representing the DENR, Secretary Roy Simato. Yay! Representing the Department of Energy, Undersecretary Jesus Posadas. Department of Science and Technology, Undersecretary Renato Solidum. We also have the Department of Justice, our Secretary Menardo Guevara. Representing the Department of Social Welfare and Development, Undersecretary Hope Hervilla. From the OCD, DND, Department of National Defense, Undersecretary Ricardo Halad. And representing the Department of Agriculture, Undersecretary Segfredo Serrano. Am I missing anyone? Neto na ba? Oh, yeah. Gotcha. And here's the first batch of our questions from the audience. This goes out to the Department of Environment and Natural Resources about Boracay Island rehabilitation. The question. Do you have a microphone? How do you ensure that Boracay will not become a cesspool again once it is open to public this October 2018? For Secretary Roy Simato.
Good afternoon. We have already started bringing in the DNR in the Boracay itself to stay there and monitor the gains that we have achieved for the past 3 months, and will stay there even after the 6 months. So all will be in place, monitoring and make sure that all the establishments are all compliant to environmental laws. Thank you.
And in connection to that, another question for Secretary Roy. The deterioration of Boracay Island is being experienced in other tourist spots. What are the plans of the government to replicate Boracay rehabilitation experience in other tourist destinations?
Yes, the environmental offices of all the regions that have tourist destinations, like in Siargao, in Panglao, in Palawan, Puerto Galera, we have already initiated some corrective measures about easements, about waste management, including their sewage system. After this, after Boracay, we'll go there to these places. And again, as I was saying, the office of the DNR will again open a unit dedicated to monitor and improve the environmental issues in the tourist destinations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Secretary Roy. The next question is for the Department of National Defense, OCD. In the event of any disaster, how can local DRRM councils access their local DRRM DRRM funds, the National DRRM Fund. I guess this goes to Undersecretary Halad.
So by law, which is Republic Act 10121, all local government units are supposed to budget at least 5% of their budget for disaster risk reduction and management. And 70% of that they can use for preparedness, and remaining 30% as their quick response fund. And they are supposed to formulate their local DRRM plan, and that shows their investment or their allocation of the local DRRM fund. What's lack is the 30%, which is their quick response fund or standby funds, which they can only use in the event of disasters. So there are issuances, a joint memorandum from the DILG, DBM, and OCD, which provides the parameters on the use of their DRRM fund.
Thank you so much, Undersecretary Rick. Our next question is for the Department of Science and Technology, FIVOLX. How do you ensure that people are aware and understand the meaning of warning messages in order for them to do the proper response? Undersecretary Solidum, sir.
When we talk about warning messages, it's not simply telling people about the potential effect, but making sure that the action plans that they must do upon receiving the warnings are also stated. So for example, for the rainfall warning, which have 3 colors like yellow, orange, and red, that would mean heavy and torrential rain, intense rain. But for the color code, if it's red, the threat of flooding is really very strong. So we are actually trying to make sure that the warning are converted to simple messages which are actionable. And in a sense, before we actually do the warning, we also have to prepare people on which areas will be affected so that they can imagine the possible disasters that would happen. So we're advocating for the phrase disaster imagination by telling people which areas will be affected if in case there will be rain, there will be volcanic eruption, or there will be an earthquake. So DOST is crafting and has funded a new program called GeoRisk Philippines. And the eventual goal there is if you use a computer, you can download all the possible maps available from different organizations, and hopefully within the near future is for everyone to just tap on the screen a particular area that they're interested in, and the hazards that that area can be affected with will appear as a list, and they can click the link to look at the maps. So we will call it the Hazard Hunter mobile application to bring down the information to the fingertips of people.
Thank you so much, Undersecretary Solidum. From the UST, we move to the Department of Energy. Para po kay Undersecretary Posadas, what is the DOE stance on coal power plants?
Thank you, Yusek. Secretary, this gives venue for us to clarify the issue of coal. For one thing, there are 5 sectors that contribute to greenhouse gas emission, and power sector is only one of them. The other sectors are agriculture, waste, then industry, and transport. To support the growing economy, which is running at about 7%, we need a composite, a power mix, we call it. And these are the 3 types. One is what we call base load, which is 24/7, to provide power irrespective of the time of day and night. Second is what we call load following, which follows the load whenever the load ramps up or ramps down. And the third type is what we call peaking. In other words, when the peak load happens, that's the type of category of power plant that kicks in. Coal is one of the technologies that provides 24/7. So therefore, we subscribe to be able to support the economy, and for price optimization, we have to engage a base load category, and one of those is coal.
Maraming salamat po, Undersecretary ng Department of Energy, Undersecretary Posadas. Ngayon po naman, we'd like to, for those who just tuned in sa Presidential Communications Facebook page and all of the Facebook pages that this event is being streamed live, this is Tatak ng Pagbabago, Tatak ng Katatagan, a Pre-SONA Forum 2018. The next question will be for Undersecretary Serrano of the Department of Agriculture. Sir, how do you plan to expand the support to farmers and fisher folks in terms of insurance coverage?
Magandang tanghali po sa inyong lahat. Salamat sa tanong. Ang crop insurance po ay importante sa panahon ng climate change dahil nagbibigay ito ng kasiguruhan doon sa ating mga magsasaka. Ang expansion po ay ginagarantiya lang po ng budget ng Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation. Dati po yan ay 50% ang subsidy, ngayon po ay 100% subsidy. Basta po nakalista kayo doon sa Farmers Registry natin. At ang plano po dyan ay dagdagan ang ating pondo sa crop insurance at gawin siyang mas matipid para makover natin yung mas marami sa mga modalities katulad po ng index-based insurance systems. So bawas po dyan yung gastos sa mga adjusters. Ang kailangan lang po ay yung density ng ating automatic water stations at yung data na mismong hawak ng ating mga farming communities. We hope that before the end of the term of the President, we can increase the density of coverage of this system. Thank you po.
Maraming salamat po, Undersecretary Serrano. We move to the next question. This is for DSWD, kay Undersecretary Hervilla. How do you ensure, ma'am, that all those affected by disasters are provided with relief assistance?
Magandang hapon sa lahat. It is in our prepositioned goods that are already stocked in our regional offices and warehouse. So, during or before the disaster strike, meron na tayong mga numbers of population, number of poor household, at basing doon tayo naglalagay ng additional na mga food packs at other non-food pack items para maibigay kaagad ang response natin sa mga biktima ng disaster.
Salamat po. Salamat po, Undersecretary Hope. Ngayon po naman ay dumako tayo sa tanong para po sa Department of Interior and Local Government, Secretary Anyo. What actions are DILG taking to ensure that LGUs are prepared for disasters and calamities like typhoons?
Thank you. If we have to sum up the actions of the DILG for the preparation of LGUs, we can sum it into 4 actions: policy development, capacity building, performance audit, and advocacy through the Oplan Listo. Sa policy development, we ensure and we direct the LGUs through our memorandum and policies regarding the development of their preparedness measures to face calamity and disaster. Kasama dyan sa mga aming memo na ibinigay, for example, the creation of the Local Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. And then we issued guidelines on ensuring public safety during calamity and natural disasters. Likewise, we issued guidelines on how to mainstream the climate change adaptation and mitigation and disaster risk reduction in their local development planning. Sa capacity building, we conduct numerous training and intervention for the LGUs and the communities on how to respond regarding disasters. Sa performance audit naman, we made sure the preparation of the LGUs regarding any calamity, especially if there is an oncoming calamity or typhoons, and it is embedded in the seal of local good governance. Doon naman sa Oplan Listo, before the coming of typhoon or before the landfall, we ensure that there is enough preparation and warning so that we'll have not only a listong pamahalaan lokal but listong pamayanan at listong pamilyang Pilipino.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary Anyo. Ngayon po naman ay meron tayong katanungan mula po sa OPAP. Para po sa OPAP, Undersecretary Nabiltan, update po sa talks with CPP, NPA, NDF.
Magandang tanghali po. Yung updates po natin, nabanggit po yung kanina sa briefing ng ating National Security Advisor. The government still open for peace negotiation with the CPP, NPA, subject to certain wishes. Yung sanang no coalition government, no collection of the so-called revolutionary tax. The venue will be local. That means in the Philippines, if ever it will be held. And there will be engagement of ceasefire agreement in designated areas. Meantime, the government has authorized the holding of localized peace talks. So the doors are still open for peace negotiation. Thank you, sir.
Maraming salamat po, Undersecretary Nabiltan. At ngayon naman ay para sa kay Secretary Esperon ng NSA. Ito po ay may kinalaman sa national security strategy. Does this mean we are preparing for war with China?
We are preparing for peace.
Okay.
It's true. The national security strategy, which we are publishing, is the first that will be published in the Philippines. But this is not to say that there had been no national security strategies. Ayaw na lang isulat or ayaw nilang ilabas. Ito ngayon, ilinalabas namin sa white paper. Sa totoo lang, naglagay kami ngayon dyan sa mga folders ninyo kung nagkasya. Pero sa dami ng nakarating ngayon, kakapusin ng konti. Pero makakarating sa inyo yung iba pang kopya. The National Security Strategy defines your plan to achieve the vision for the country. Put as a whole handiwork of government and the people. After all, the national strategy aims to achieve the ends of national security strategy, which is the protection and the enhancement of the well-being of the Filipino people, the protection of the territories, of sovereignty, the institutions, as well as the core values of the Filipino people. National security calls for a strong republic. It is built on values, core values, and unity. In other words, the national security strategy brings together the instruments of national power, which are diplomatic, informational, military, economic, legal, finance, and intelligence. You use all these instruments of national power
to attain your objectives for a strong republic. It is for the being of the Filipino people. Now, hindi naman sa gaya-gaya tayo, but if you want to look at other models in other countries, you will note that they have their national security strategies. George Bush published 2 national security strategies. President published 2. President Trump signed his national security strategy in December 2017. Kung gusto nyong mabasa yon, you just go to you can download it from the internet. The same with us. You just look for it. The National Security Strategy of the Philippines. Makikita ninyo doon, kasama na rin ang National Security Policy, which is the vision for the Philippines. And please remember that the 2 documents, National Security Policy and the National Security Strategy, are the books of the President as recommended by all of us in the Cabinet. That's, in short, your National Security Strategy. We are prepared for peace with the NSS.
Thank you. Maraming salamat po, Secretary June Esperon. We have 25 minutes pa for our questions and answers. Ito, napakaganda po ng tanong na ito. Anong mga hakbang ang ginagawa ng pamahalaan upang maisama sa disaster risk management ang may kapansanan? Wala pa pong mga guidelines para sa proteksyon ng mga may disability kapag may drill. Para po kay Undersecretary Hervilla ng DSWD.
Actually, nasa proseso tayo ng pagbubuo ng guidelines. But sa mga drills natin ngayon, na isasama na natin yung pag-consider natin sa sitwasyon ng ating mga kapatid na may kapansanan. Sa ating mga centers and institution, lalo na sa ating center na nandun yung ating mga kapatid na may kapansanan, ay tinuturuan na sila paanong mag-drill na bawat isa sa kanila ay magkakaroon din ng proteksyon. Sa mga communities natin, together with the OCD and the DILG, ini-ensure natin ngayon sa preparation stage pa lang ay yung ating mga kapatid na may kapansanan ay magkakaroon ng mga body system o kasama na sa panahon ng disaster ay meron silang kasama na, anong tawag doon, bumabalikat sa kanila para matulungan sila sa paglakad. Kung hindi sila makalakad, kung mga bulag sila, magkaroon sila ng kasama na mag-alalay sa kanila patungo sa mga evacuation center. At ang evacuation center naman natin ay tinatry natin na magkakaroon talaga na maging friendly ito sa ating mga person with disabilities, kagaya ng ating mga kababaihan at ating mga kabataan.
Maraming salamat po, Undersecretary Hervilla. Isang tanong pa para kay Secretary Anyo from a concerned citizen of Kainta Movement. Paano po ninyo ilalarawan ang naging kampanya ng DILG laban sa illegal na droga at ano pa ang inyong gagawin?
Maraming salamat. Unang-una, yung ating laban kontra sa droga ay hindi lamang DILG sapagkat ito ay whole of nation approach. Kasama natin ang iba't ibang ahensya dito, PIDEA, at lahat ng sangay at ahensya ng ating pamahalaan. Well, we adopted the whole of nation approach. We strengthened and capacitated our local government units, especially through the local peace and order councils and the creation of anti-drug abuse councils with the participation also of civil society organization representatives. So, with that also, we receive a lot of support from private organizations and NGOs particularly on the construction of drug rehabilitation centers all over the country. Likewise, we held our local officials accountable for their performance and contribution to the government anti-crime and anti-drug operations. We also offered the public a mechanism on how to report anything about illegal drug operations, as well as if there are law enforcement that are violating or doing abusive actions. And also, we capacitated and trained our local enforcement agencies. We issued clear guidelines on how to conduct anti-drug operations, especially preventing commission of any human rights violations. And for the community also, we would like to also thank the public because many of them volunteered their relatives for their relatives who are drug users to be enrolled in our rehabilitation program. And our community, our local government units has this balay silangan to adopt and take care of our drug user. So in all of these things na pinasama-sama natin, we have been very successful. And we will continue to do that and even improve the measures that would lead to more success.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary Anyo. We have last 3 questions. Itong susunod na tanong ay napakaganda. Para po ito kay Justice Secretary Maynard Guevara. Sir, how do we increase the case resolutions? Ito po yung tanong. How do we increase the case resolutions?
Case resolutions. Let's clarify what that means. If you're talking about cases already in court, so probably that is a question that is more properly addressed to the judiciary. If we're talking about cases which are pending before the National Prosecution Service, meaning those under preliminary investigation. So it's a big question that requires a very big answer as well. Number one is, I guess, in the number of prosecutors. Because right now, that's our major problem. Kulang ang mga prosecutors. All right, so many new courts have been created, pero hindi nakakaagapay ang DOJ sa pag-a-appoint ng mga additional or new prosecutors. So we have submitted quite a huge number of prosecutors for appointment, so we're hoping that their appointments will come very soon. So that's one, improve or increase the number of prosecutors. Number two, siguro improve the quality of preliminary investigation para mas mabilis. So improving the quality of preliminary investigation would necessitate an improvement in the quality of the prosecutors whom we choose. And therefore, that means to say also improvement on the matter of selection and recruitment of prosecutors so that we get only the better ones. Number three, well, on the matter of, this is a bit different, on the matter of corruption. Sad to say, I have to admit na nahandyan yan. Kasi may element of discretion, all right? So our prosecutors engage in performing what we may call a quasi-judicial function. So there's an element of discretion. And whenever discretion is available, nahandyan always yung temptation. All right, so one area is on the matter of, well, local government units having some sort of influence over the prosecutors in some places. And that's because under the law, allowed naman ang mga local government units to provide support and allowances to our prosecutors. Well and good, and we welcome that as a matter of fact. But somehow, merong konting element na baka makompromise yung independence of our prosecutors. So we would like to provide as much resources as possible to our prosecution service so that the need or the reliance partly from the local government units can be entirely eliminated, and so that our prosecutors can work and do their jobs very independently. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Secretary Maynard Guevara. Last two questions. Para po kay Undersecretary ng Department of Foreign Affairs, Enrique Manalo. Galing po ito kay Kapitan Conrado Quizon ng OFW Global Movement for Empowerment Dubai Chapter. Bakit ho yung mga documented OFWs lamang ang binibigyan ng financial assistance when they go home for good, but not those undocumented Filipinos or victims of human trafficking? Pilipino rin naman sila.
Thank you very much, and magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. First, let me just begin my reply by saying that one of the three pillars of Philippine foreign policy is to promote and protect the interests of Filipinos abroad. And it's based on that broad mandate that we undertake whatever assistance we can provide. So let me just say very clearly that any welfare assistance provided by our posts abroad, or DFA, is for all OFWs, regardless of their status or immigration status. In fact, most recently, many or most of the beneficiaries who availed of the amnesties that was applied in some countries were all undocumented OFWs. So in other words, all Filipinos are given that type of assistance.
Maraming salamat po, Undersecretary Manalo. Last question is for Undersecretary Cardoso Luna of the Department of National Defense. What are the initiatives of the government with regard to the welfare of veterans, especially those who served during World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War?
Magandang umaga po at salamat sa katanungan. Ang isa pong misyon ng Department of National Defense ay pangalagaan ng ating mga veterano. Hindi lamang yung kanilang welfare, kundi panatiliin ang kaalaman ng mamamayang Pilipino sa kanilang mga kabayanihan. At palagay ko po, ang isa sa pinakamagandang welfare na nabibigay natin sa ating mga veterano ay yung kilalanin yung kanilang mga kabayanihan. At yan ay nagagawa natin sa pamamagitan ng pag-maintain ng mga shrine, katulad ng meron tayong libingan ng mga bayani at mga iba't iba pang mga shrine all over the country. At saka meron po tayong Philippine Veterans Memorial Hospital na kung saan po ay meron tayong tinatanggap na mga veterano na nakukonfine upang pangalagaan ang kanilang kalusugan. Hindi po lamang ito yung baka alam niyo yung Philippine Veterans Memorial Hospital na nandyan sa malapit sa mall, dyan sa Quezon City. Meron po tayong 300 na mga hospital na nabigyan na natin, nagkaroon tayo ng Memorandum of Agreement upang ang ating mga veterano ay pangalagaan ang kanilang kalusugan at gamutin ang kanilang mga karamdaman sa buong bansa. Hindi na kinakailangan pumunta pa sila ng Manila upang pumunta sa Philippine Veterans Memorial Center, kundi pwede na silang pumunta sa mga regional hospitals, mga government hospitals na meron tayong Memorandum of Agreement. At yun po ang kanilang mga gasto sa gamot, gastusin sa doktor, at saka sa kanilang mga pangangailangan medikal ay sinasagot po ng ating Department of National Defense sa pamamagitan ng Philippine Veterans Affairs Office. Ganun din po, ang ating mga veterano po ay patuloy na nakakatanggap ng kanilang mga pensyon at ito po ay ginagawa natin ng magagandang pagbibigay ng atensyon. Halimbawa po, yung kanilang 5,000 na ngayon ay natatanggap kada buwan, ay halos ma-approve na po sa Kongreso sa pamamagitan ng tulong ng ating mga senador at mga congressman, na kung saan ito ay magiging 20,000 na. At yun po ay nilalakad ng Department of National Defense through our Secretary Delpin Lorenzana, na kinakausap yung ating mga congressman at mga senador upang huwag nating mapabayaan ang ating mga veterano. Kaya po yung ating mga veterano, huwag po kayong mag-alala. Mahal na mahal po kayo ng Department of National Defense, mahal na mahal po kayo ng gobyerno ng ating Pangulong Duterte. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Undersecretary Cardoso Luna. And that concludes our open forum. And may we now ask Executive Secretary Bingbong Mediadea for his closing remarks.
Magandang umaga po sa kanilang lahat. Alam po ninyo, first time ako nag-attend ng symposium na ganitong klase. Napakaganda ho. I don't have any line agency. Nung ako po ay nagsimula ng trabaho ko as Executive Secretary, we were requested to stay on stage. And all of the incoming cabinet secretaries were asked, what are your programs for your department? Isa-isa ho silang sumagot. 25 po silang nagsagutan at nagbigay ng kanilang mga mandates sa kanilang departamento. Ako po nakaupo sa dulo. Pagdating sa akin, hindi ko maisagot kasi wala ho akong ahensya. So, ang sabi ko na lang sa kanila, 2 lang ang aking trabaho. Pangalagaan ko ang Pangulo ko. Pangalawa, tignan ko na ang mga pinapangako ng mga taong kasama ko sa stage ay madideliver nila sa tao. Alam po ninyo, napakahirap ng trabaho ng ating Pangulo. Sa ginagawa natin ito, napapagawaan natin siya. I can only assure you that he is one person na napakasipag. Buong araw, nakikita nyo nagtatrabaho. Susubo na lang ng pagkain, trabaho pa rin ang iniisip. Kaya tama lang ho itong ginagawa natin na suklian natin siya ng magandang suporta. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat po, Executive Secretary Bingbong Mediadea. And now, I would also like to say thank you again to all of our participants dito po sa ating tatak ng pagbabago, tatak ng katatagan, Duterte Force, Global OFW Movement for Empowerment, Louder PH, Republic Defenders, Arangkadang Caviteño, Good Vibes, Philippines, HR Monitoring, PWD Philippines, and Philippine Marine Senior Officers Spouse Club. Once again, we would like to thank everyone who took part in the last of our 3-part Pre-SONA 2018 series. Our secretaries, our government officials, delegates, media, social media influencers, stakeholders, and fellow servants in government. This wouldn't be possible without your support and presence. We hope that we all learned something today. Thank you very much and good day. This has been Tatak ng Pagbabago.
May we request the panelists, together with Secretary Martin Andanar, to stay on stage for a photo op. Thank you.
Pangalaway, maging ganap na rin lason, di ka ba nababahala? Ito ba'y
Thank you everyone for participating in the Tatak ng Pagbabago, Tatak ng Katatagan Pre-SONA 2018 Forum. Please be advised that the third State of the Nation address will be on July 23, 2018. This has been Tatak ng Pagbabago, a Pre-SONA Forum. Please enjoy the lunch we have prepared for you. Have a nice day.